This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
PayPal lets you pay all your pals, like your graduation gifters.
Who's paying for the mattress topper?
You mean the beanbag chair?
Aren't we getting a mini fridge?
Can we create a pool on PayPal? It lets us collect the money before we buy.
Ooh, yes, that's smart.
Glad we can agree on something.
Easily pool, split, and send money with PayPal. Get started in the PayPal app. A PayPal account is required to send and receive money. A balance account is required to create a pool.
Hey, it's me, Paige DeSorbo, and I'm so excited to share my new shoe collection at DSW, filled with my favorite styles and trends for spring. Because if you know me, you know I'm kind of obsessed with shoes. And by kind of obsessed, I mean head over heels. You're going to love these shoes. So snag super cute styles like cute flats, fun heels, and cool sneakers from the Paige DeSorbo collection right now at your DSW store or dsw.com.
Catch the new Hulu original comedy Mid-Century Modern from the creators of Will and Grace, executive producer Ryan Murphy, and director James Burrows. When three best friends move in together, Palm Springs will never be the same. They're fun, they're fabulous, and they're turning life's lemons into spiked lemonade. Shake up a batch of cocktails, relax by the pool, and get ready for some serious shade. Mid-Century Modern stars Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, Nathan Lee Graham, and Linda Lavin. All episodes of Mid-Century Modern are now streaming on Hulu.
Man.
30 seconds left in overtime. Matt Boldy off a Johansson pass, left it back for the Swedish-born Marcus Johansson to open the scoring tonight. Johansson carries in, got past Gauthier. Johansson left it back, Boldy faked the shot, wristed one, he scores! Matt Boldy wins it in overtime! The Wild pour off the bench to Marc-Andre Fleury, and they're heading to the playoffs in style with a 3-2 win!
The Minnesota Wild with the Jules Eriksson-Ek goal with 22 seconds to go, forced in overtime, and all they needed was a point to get to the postseason. So they achieved the postseason. XL Energy Center goes crazy. And as Kevin Gorg from FanDuel Sports North and Canterbury Park joins us now, after that, it's a playoff clinching moment. Actually was upstaged in emotional fashion by Marc-Andre Fleury, starting to stretch in front of his bench, and he gets 4.5 minutes of the overtime. He kills a penalty with the rest of the guys, and he wins in what quite possibly could not only be his final home game, but his final game. And he's HOF. Here comes KG to join us now. What's up, buddy?
Good morning, PA. Yeah, it was. It turned out to be quite a magical night on what was, for a bulk of it, for at least, 2 or 2.5 hours. And I think for all of us and all of the Wild fans out there, a very stressful night. So it ended up being great. But it was a lot more stressful than it needed to be.
Okay, well, so like during the course of you executing your toil in second to none fashion on television, you can do this. Russo Radio and reporters and stuff can do this. Like the players and coaches can't. What I'm talking about is you're seeing a 1-1 game, then all of a sudden it's 2-1. Anaheim as big dogs. And but you can look at like, what are the Blues doing? What are the Flames doing? Did you just work your phone last night with scoreboard watching?
I stopped scoreboard watching. The Blues got off to that big lead early. I think it was 4-0 after one. And I kind of felt all along, and I've told anybody who would listen, that Calgary playing both Vegas and LA here late in the season without their best players, they were going to send their B squad because they're locked into their positions in the Western Conference playoff race. I just assumed that the only way the Wild were getting in is if they got a point last night. So I was really dialed into the game. in certain parts of the game, as anybody who works with me, Aaron Sickman, can attest to this, I retreat to the stick room in the tunnel behind the Wild bench. Don't watch, only listen to LaPanta and Carter in my ear. Did that for a bulk of the third period, but I will tell you, when the goalie got pulled, I got out to my little monitor outside the locker room with Sickman, with his two aces, Dylan Daniel and Jackson Riebel, and the four of us watched. And honest to God, when that puck went in, when X scored that goal, there were four big hugs and there were some screams, and it was pretty damn exciting.
Yeah, that and Zuki and Boldy working it the way they did to get it to Eriksson Ek to score. I mean, that was a masterpiece. And Coach Hines joined 90 minutes ago, and then he laid it out for guys who didn't play like me. Is the nuance and truly what went into Zuccarello winning that puck battle by the board to get the play going in the first place. I mean, this, you know more about Matt Zuccarello than me, man, but, from the Vancouver game through other moments when Kaprizov and Ek were down, is this the best he's ever played in his career?
It's crazy. As long as he's been in this league, at least in a Wild sweater, I think this last couple of months is the best we've seen from Matt Zuccarello. He might be the smartest hockey player I've ever covered. He just sees the game and knows the game at a different level than most. And I was listening to Coach Hines, and I love what he had to say about that pass, because Zuccarello makes that pass and that play look easy. And I'm going to tell you right now, 9 out of 10 players in this league get that puck, and they've got support down by the net with Ek and Boldy. They're going to throw a shot to the net trying to get a rebound. If you make that pass and it gets picked off, and there were 3 players he had to weave that puck through, if that puck PA gets picked off, that puck is cleared and the game is over. I mean, that's a high risk, high reward play. And then it's Matt Boldy not just trying to shovel that thing to the net, seeing Ek open on the weak side. And then I had a chance to visit with Ek right after the game last night, and Dostal stops his first shot. And luckily, he had enough space where he was able to have the time to put that puck in on the rebound. But there were a lot of things that had to go right, and it starts with the play of Matt Zuccarello.
Yeah, I'm and I was quite envious of something involving you last night that I caught quickly on TV, and it's part of the job, man. I mean, it's part of working with the team and with the television network and being the side rink analyst for Minnesota Wild hockey. And here's what it was. Is I saw you on the ice, just to what would be, I think, the left or the right, whatever, of the bench, and you were waiting for your interview. And it was during a time that the Anaheim Ducks were waiting around for the Wild to stop celebrating so they could line up and shake Marc-Andre Fleury's hand. I mean, that was such a touching moment last night, because they're at Winnipeg tonight. They ain't going anywhere. I mean, they're 2 days from being able to spend all the cash they make during the season, and they can't do anything with it because they're always practicing or playing. So, I mean, they're close to a great time of the year for them, rest and relaxation. Yet they waited to shake HOF's hand, and that is so classy, and it separates hockey from every other pro sport. I just love it, man.
I got choked up between that and the crowd chanting his name. And then when the Wild circled up and Flower went around that circle at center ice and got high fives from every one of his teammates, I got to tell you, it's been such a blessing to have these seasons with Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't think any of us had any idea when Bill Guerin brought him in at the trade deadline 3 or 4 years ago what kind of impact he would have. And I think the irony of everything that happened last night, I've reflected on it all morning long, for me, is the work that Marc-Andre Fleury has done behind the scenes with Philip Gustafsson to help him go from a goalie that had great physical skills but just couldn't find the consistency in his game. And that's the mental side of the game for a goalie in that evolution. And the impact that Fleury has had on Gustafsson in his time here has led Marc-Andre Fleury to now really be off to the side as the backup. And we've seen it here down the stretch in the last handful of weeks. He's only played, twice in the last month. The irony of that is the work that he's done to help Gustafsson get to a higher level has put him there. And knowing this right now, I don't think he has any regrets, because Marc-Andre Fleury is a lover. He respects the game. He cares for his teammates. and he knows that the impact he's had on Gustafson's career is something he can watch for years. And even though it sucked, I'm sure, for a guy that loves to play as much as he does, having to sit and watch all these games down the stretch, it's been tough. So last night, to see him out there for overtime, to see him cover the bingo card with the too bad side, the poke check, the talking to the post, and everything that went into that, with the crowd on their feet chanting his name, it doesn't get more magical than that, man.
You Spotty, you know more about it than I'll ever know, man. And I'm probably over exemplifying this a little bit. That wasn't a poke check, okay? That was a check on a duck in front of him that caused the guy's back to bend and his neck to whip back. And I swear your guy, Andy Von Helleman or whomever in the corner, looked at it because the duck looked at him and was like, bruh, I'm not calling that in this moment because it was a super hard check. Okay, but so that was cool too. But anyway, you've watched whether it's working, for FanDuel, Bally's, Fox Sports North, the whole thing, or watching hockey games, NHL games specifically. You've seen thousands of them, man. Have you ever seen somebody score a game-winning goal, Matt Boldy, and everybody skates to the goalie and not the guy who scored the game winner?
No, and what makes it so cool is, Matt Boldy had that smile on his face, and I'll give our crew credit. They captured the moment after they all flocked to Flower. They had to show Boldy and see his reaction, and he's smiling, trying to get down to that mob around Flower just as quick as his teammates. I've never seen that. It was a very unique situation where the Wild had already clinched the playoffs. I wonder, again, who knows if Flower's even in there, but it's just the craziness of the way things played out last night. And I'm glad Calgary won. We knew St. Louis had won. And just imagine if Calgary goes to L.A. tomorrow night and wins. And again, now it's so hard to even look at this, but to know that the Wild were down to their last 21 seconds and the plays that were made that allowed that magic to happen with Fleury. And if it is the last time we see him, I don't know if it gets any better. Like, his kids were there last night. I saw a picture on social media during warmups of Flower behind the glass and his three beautiful kids taking a picture with him. I know from talking to Marc-Andre, when his kids have been in any of these arenas, when they've heard their dad's name chanted, they're getting old enough now to understand the magnitude of the moment and how much that means to them and how cool they think that is. So to have that night last night and to have that one last go of it in front of the home crowd, I just think it was really spectacular.
All right, lastly here, what do you like about the squad versus Las Vegas? They in the mid-December game, Jesper Wallstedt was the goalie because Bus was out. And they lose 3-2. Kaprizov had a couple in that game. That's the best they played against Las Vegas this year. The most recent one, in horse racing fashion. I think you can almost draw a line through it, with that big Dallas game, and they're still down players, and they got to fly back and then catch Eichel and those monsters, on a back-to-back at this stage of the season. Holy cow. What do you like about the squad versus Las Vegas, and how can they win?
Well, I'll start with this. They haven't had their full roster of players for any of those matchups with Vegas. 2 of the 3 were second of back-to-backs, and the one in Vegas looked like a blowout, but truthfully, 3 of the goals were scored in the final 5 minutes. Now, listen, Vegas is minus 250. They deserve to be favored. They've been the most consistent performer in the playoffs here the last handful of years. It includes a Stanley Cup, and Jack Eichel is the guy that makes this engine go. And I think what intrigues me about the matchup, PA, is this. Joel Eriksson against Jack Eichel is where I start. And I know that when the Wild start on the road, they're not always going to be able to get that matchup. And so now hopefully Freddie Gaudreau is another guy that you can use to slow down Eichel because he really makes the offense go in Vegas. But I look at the matchup in between the pipes. Playoff hockey, to me, special teams and goaltending get magnified. And listen, Aiden Hill's got a Stanley Cup. He's a big monster in there. He's a very good goaltender, but he gives up rebounds. And the Wild have a type of team that can hunt punks around the blue paint. And I think Phil Gustafsson has shown this year that he's one of the elite goaltenders in this league. The numbers speak for themselves. The Wild were top 5 in team save percentage all year long, and we know he played close to 60 games in net for Minnesota. And then the other thing is the Ek and Kaprizov factor. Like, I've listened to John Hines, and listening to you talk to Joe Smith, and Eck is already at peak performance right now, but Kaprizov has always been a guy that's needed 3 or 4 games to get up to full speed when he comes off a sustained absence from playing games. So you've got 2 of your most impactful players that didn't play half the season. And it really was hard for this hockey team to get to the playoffs because they missed those guys. But they knew all along if they got their PA that having those guys only playing around 40 hockey games gives them all kinds of tread on the tire for the playoffs. So there is some super intriguing angles, I think, for the underdog Wild to get there. My biggest concern is the amount of energy they've had to exert most of this year, playing short stack and then playing the last 4 or 5 weeks with their backs up against the wall, having to scratch and claw for every point. That, to me, is the only thing that really causes me serious concern. The matchup itself, I think, is decent for the Wild if they can get enough energy from their key guys. And I'm talking Brodin, I'm talking Faber, Middleton, Spurgeon. This is going to be a series that's won in the trenches, and Vegas has a big, heavy blue line. And if the Wild can find a way to get to those rebounds I already talked about, this thing has the potential, like the series did in 2021, to go the distance. That was a 7-game series where I think the Wild would have won Game 7, but if everybody remembers, Jonas Brodin, who was playing brilliantly in that series, got hurt in the first period of Game 7, and the Wild never recovered.
Hey, I know you're busy. Do you have 45 seconds for a quick racetrack story?
Absolutely.
Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet?
It involves Mouse. Johnny the Mouse Mickelson, captain of the 83 Wayzata club hockey team. He wore the C. So there was a pick 4 Sunday at Remington Park. Okay. And Mouse on a $21 ticket for a $21 ticket was alive with several horses in the pick 4, and he lost it. He lost it by a head. Okay. And the one that lost it would have paid $1,100. It's quarter horse racing, so it goes fast. You know the horse who beat him?
Dickie Bob.
A Minnesota horse is the one that knocked out the Minnesota provincial wagering king. Can you believe that?
There is no bigger homer in my circle of friends than Johnny the Mouse Mickelson.
Dickie Bob.
He will pick or bet a Minnesota horse at any cost. He bets Kelsey Haar,
right,
who's a lovely, lovely jockey at Canterbury every summer. Come watch her. She's excellent at what she does. But those waters are pretty deep down Arkansas way at Oaklawn Park, and he bets her every single race. And she wins a handful of races every single winter out of like 200 mounts, and he does not stop betting her. And he gets beat by a Minnesota horse. Oh, Johnny. God, I love this guy. He is so fun to watch out there. And that is just another one of those bad beats that we've seen him take year after year. But he'll pop. I know he'll pop here real soon come Derby time, because he'll be flush in time for the opener of Canterbury on May 24th.
Yeah, Dickie Bob pick 4 paid like $1,700. Not that anybody needs that. All right. Love you, buddy. Safe travels to Vegas. I'll call you soon.
Love you too, PA. Take care.
Kevin Gorg at Gorgomatic. 2-1 Wolves and Lakers this weekend, as everything's happening so quickly and it's beautiful. Orono native Mike Trudell is now Southern California based. And main man who used to work here with us at the Fan, worked with the Timberwolves. He is he's the sideline reporter for the vast and ever-expanding LA Lakers TV network. Holy cow. Let's chat Lakers and Wolves with Mike Trudell around the corner. But first,
the Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand. National cash contest, chance to win money. You like that? Well, the keyword is money, and you use that at KFAN.com. Enter the keyword money to potentially win some.
Catch the new Hulu original comedy, Mid-Century Modern, from the creators of Will and Grace, executive producer Ryan Murphy, and director James Burrows. When 3 best friends move in together, Palm Springs will never be the same. Bunny, Jerry, and Arthur are already close friends. But when they decide to live together, it's a new chapter with a new family. And speaking of family, don't forget Bunny's mom, Sybil, who's along for the ride. Whether it's a trip to Fire Island or a local congresswoman with a wild side, these roomies know how to do it with style. They're fun, they're fabulous, and they're turning life's lemons into spiked lemonade. So shake up a batch of cocktails, relax by the pool, and get ready for some serious shade. a new comedy with heart, soul, and sass. Mid-Century Modern stars Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, Nathan Lee Graham, and Linda Lavin. All episodes of Mid-Century Modern are now streaming on Hulu.
KFAN.
Mike Trudell is at Lakers Reporter via the X Machine. He's a Minnesotan from Orono, and he joins us now. Mike, Paul Allen, how are you?
Paul, always great to hear your voice. I'm calling from beautiful California, where you're still a racehorse calling legend down here. I heard you telling some pony stories a minute ago. Didn't you used to call the races out here, right?
No, I wrote for the Pasadena Star News, the San Gabriel Valley Tribune, from 89 to 93. And I actually, in what was known as the stringer, so I covered high school sports and horse racing for those newspapers, but I got a chance to cover a couple of Clippers games at the sports arena when they played there with Danny Manning and Michael Cage and Charles Smith and players like that. So that's what I used to do in SoCal.
Okay, well, I just assumed that you were, and you are in my heart anyway.
Hey, now I know you were a former, this is stupid of me, Mike, because I've known you forever. I know you're a former Wolves employee. You worked at the Fan a little bit too, right?
No, never officially. So this is good.
Okay.
And now we at least have both screwed up the other's previous resume.
Well, you know what?
Look, I would have loved to have worked at the Fan. Maybe when I was a whippersnapper there, had some dreams of just figuring out a great name for a show with me and Guardsy. Still haven't come up with it. If you can figure that one out, let me know. Right. I mean, something that makes fun of Edina, ideally, since that's where he went, and Orono, although it sounds like Orono has gotten more money in recent years, which I'm not really proud of. Or it's just classic standard middle class when I was there. So that was the idea, but never officially worked there. No.
The show could have been G&T or T&G. I mean, that would have been sweet.
It's nice and simple there.
Yeah,
with a little gin and tonic logo or something behind it.
So were you in Orono when John Lure played there?
No, so he's a couple years younger than me.
Okay.
I do know him, though, of course, because he was in the NBA for a while, and he ended up marrying a friend of mine, younger sister. I don't know if you remember Brian Billick, of course, was the offensive coordinator for the Vikes, right, back in the great run when we should have won the Super Bowl. Shout out to Gary Anderson and everybody else. So his daughters went to Orono, and then eventually Lure married the younger one. So that's exciting.
At Lakers Reporter via the X Machine, follow him as a 9 to noon does if you're so inclined. What's it like being Lakers Reporter guy?
Look, I have loved my time with the Lakers. So I've been out here since 2008 now, after 2 seasons with the Timberwolves. But the thing that I always go back to, PA, my first year covering the NBA was KG. It was KG's last year in Minnesota. And there were only 4 of us in the locker room after games, whereas with the Lakers, it's about 100. And so I just got to sit there and listen to Kevin Garnett explain basketball. And especially after a loss, he would go on for 20 minutes sometimes. And that was a great inroads for me to then transfer into kind of figuring out how to cover somebody like Kobe and eventually LeBron, because nobody takes it more seriously and works harder than Kevin Garnett. And that was super formative for me. So I always kind of start there when I think about the NBA journey for myself.
All right. So Mike, I was in the Southland after moving from Washington, D.C., 79 to 93. Then I moved north to call races at the now defunct Bay Meadows Racecourse. Now, when I was there, Magic Johnson, was a rookie my first year from Michigan State. They win the championship. He plays center. Kareem has migraines. And there was a segue in fandom at that time because the Dodgers with Garvey and Say and Fernando Valenzuela and Dusty Baker and all that, they were the most popular team in town. Then Magic comes along and the Lakers became the most popular team in the Southland, and it wasn't even close. So are the Lakers still by far the most popular team in Southern California, or is it the LA Dodgers?
I think the nice part about it, it's somewhat of not even somewhat, it's a totally symbiotic relationship between the Lakers and Dodgers. So Laker fans are Dodger fans, and both franchises, I think, really represent SoCal in a great way. Mm-hmm. Both have had stars. Both have been winning. The Dodgers have, of course, been awesome for 10+ years now, and it seems like just somehow get better every year. So in that Venn diagram, mostly it's in the middle. Now, if you had to pick, if if people got to pick what the ultimate LA sports experience, would they rather take courtside tickets to a Laker game than going to a Dodger game? Probably. It's still the biggest show. It's harder. There's only 20,000 people in the arena, right, as opposed to 60,000 or something, and there's fewer games. So I do think that Laker games are the biggest thing there, PA, but the Dodgers are right there. They're brothers.
All right, so you've now gotten 30 plus with Luka and or LeBron playing together. How has it been?
Oh, it's been great. So it was obviously crazy, as anybody would have expected when the trade officially went down. I was on a bus leaving Madison Square Garden after a big Lakers victory when the news came out, and Max Christie, who was in that trade, was a couple seats in front of me, finding out that he's going to Dallas. And so all of that craziness happening, now evolving to the point where, the Lakers have really hit a nice rhythm of basketball. They end up clinching the 3 seed after a play-in chase the last couple of years, which was, not easy. And thankfully the Wolves, from going back to my Minnesota roots, I root for the Wolves when they're not playing the Lakers. Being able to avoid the play-in is just such a big thing in order to try to make a run. And Luka's in the best shape that he's been in. He's in a great rhythm offensively. His numbers are as good as they've been for the last several months, just over the last week, Paul. So everything is looking up in that direction for the Lakers, and it took a little while for them to figure out the chemistry, but I think they're getting pretty close to it.
Mike Trudell, at Lakers reporter, Minnesotan, Orinoco crazy. Austin Reeves, such a wild card in every game, such a wild card in the series, in my opinion. He's really good at drawing fouls, isn't he? And can Reeves get into the line, man? That could be key in this series, do you think?
Yeah, so he's definitely good at that. He's got the craft to him. But, part of the reason that he's able to draw fouls is because he's an excellent shooter. So you can't just leave him. You can't go under a screen from the perimeter. And he's really good at a hard dribble drive attack when the defense it feints even in one direction or the other. Say LeBron's in the weak side or Luka is. Reeves is really adept at using that to his advantage and then getting all the way to the cup. So I think the way I would describe it, PA, he's the best third creator or tertiary creator on an NBA team. Nobody else has a third guy who you can just give the basketball to and say, hey, go get me a bucket in a tough situation.
Wow.
He's earned the full trust of LeBron James. That's been forged over previous playoff series. And so for him to be out there and then the defense has their primary eyes on Luka Doncic and then their secondary eyes on LeBron James, which even that sentence is kind of dumb to think of having your secondary eyes on LeBron James, right? With him still playing at an all NBA second team level probably. And that's been, I think, the difficulty that teams have had defending the Lakers here. So you're right to point out Reeves at the free throw line, but that's just kind of one element of what he can do as a creator. And there haven't been a lot of answers so far for that.
Okay, now you've piqued my interest, and you're an elite NBA mind, so I'm going to yield to that take. But I want to hit you with a couple. The team that plays at the same arena. What about third player creating and scoring, Norman Powell? Like what makes Austin better than that?
Yeah, so I think Norman Powell is excellent at going to get his own shots, right? Whether getting all the way to the rim, he's really explosive, or creating separation for a pull-up jumper. He's not quite the playmaker, I would say, as Reeves is, right, where you're going to put him in that primary, hey, screen roll, I'm going to give you a big, there's shooters on either side, go get somebody else an open shot. I think Powell is excellent, again, at creating his own, but I would put Reeves, I would have some separation there for him and getting others involved as well.
All right, what about Derek White or Kristaps Porzingis?
So it's similar concept there. I think so. White, you could make a good argument that White is the best sort of like third best all around player for what he does. It's a little different because of how great he is defensively. PA. I mean, he's got to be considered an all NBA defensive guy every year. And and Reeves isn't that, but same kind of concept. Like if you give me a team, and in fact they were both on Team USA basketball, and you tell the coach, hey, go get the team a good shot. Let's let our offense run. I think you're giving the ball to Reeves before you're giving it to Derek White for some of those similar principles. He's really adept. He can run screen roll with the ball himself, or he can run it as the secondary guy, as the screener. He's good at all of that. So that I would still give him the edge in terms of the creator on offense. I would give it to Reeves there.
Elite takes. Just absolutely love it. Time for two more.
Thanks, Paul.
Mike Trudell, at Lakers reporter, elite NBA mind. Love the guy. How would you handle Gobert, who's quite big?
So Gobert, to me, is certainly a concern, but I think the scouting report very clearly starts with Anthony Edwards. But since you asked about Gobert, I'll start there. No, so Luka knows Gobert in a playoff context very well. I think everybody has seen the clip of Luka crossing him over, the step back. We all know what happened last year in that Wolves series. And so the difficulty with a Gobert is that the Lakers will go to their, I don't even want to call it a small group because they're still huge, but they'll put Dorian Finney-Smith, who's an elite shooter, good defensive player, in with Rui Hachimura, with LeBron, with Reeves, and then with Luka. And they'll just, whoever Rudy is guarding will bring him up to the top of the key, set the screen for Luka, and he will pick and pop, and then you're dancing. And that's what Luka loves to do. He loves attacking bigs, especially somebody like Gobert. And I think that what Gobert wants to do is be in a drop coverage next to the rim.
Yep.
And that's where, can he stay on the floor, or do you go right to a Naz Reid lineup? You know, that to me is a big chess piece in this.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past, you know, Luka in the past PA in playoff series has been the one that's won that kind of a matchup.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal answer. And I didn't start with Anthony simply because Redick is so intense and he's so smart that it just feels like a double on Edwards pretty much every time he gets the ball. And it's going to be one of those bits. If he can split the double, he needs to pass. And then the ancillary guys got to hit shots, right?
Well, you two are an elite NBA mind. I learned a lot about the NBA from you back in the day. Back in my Minnesota days. By the way, shout out to Lake Minnetonka. I have to figure out how to get on the lake when I'm in Minnesota next week. In terms of Anthony Edwards, as you correctly identified, PA, blitzing Edwards is a tool that a lot of coaches have used. And I don't necessarily even give any fault to that of Edwards. It's so difficult for people sometimes to remember. He's 23. Okay. Most players don't make their real playoff run in terms of getting all the way to the finals and winning until they're 27. So he is still figuring out exactly what to do when the defense blitzes fully and who's on the weak side. Can I hit the guy in the short roll? So I don't know that he has all of those answers to the test yet, like a LeBron James does, like a Luka Doncic does. And that's for totally understandable reasons. It's coming with Ant. He's getting better, but I do still think there's a little bit of a susceptibility there. What the Lakers are most worried about, though, if you think about Edwards, and yes, they are going to trap him, I'm sure, at times, he has gotten to be so elite so quickly at the off-the-dribble three-pointers that he gets for himself.
Yeah.
Where really only Steph Curry and maybe Lillard the last couple of years do that. And that, if you can just go and get yourself a three over the top of the defense and make him at a 40% clip, I mean, that is truly elite, and that's, I think, a main thing they're going to worry about. So they're trying to figure out some schemes for that. But your original take, PA, is a good one, and I do think you mix in some blitzes with them.
Okay, last one, a minute, and you get it all. I'm assuming JJ Redick is super intense, and here's why. Because Mike Trudell, I have all your albums. Just because I don't text all the time, I've watched you a ton this season, including a game within the last 2 or 3 weeks, can't remember the opponent, and you're going to interview JJ Redick either into halftime or at the end of the game. You asked him,
coming off the floor at the end of the second quarter. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about here. You asked him a question. He eyeballed you and said, "I'm not answering that because it involves game planning." and then you just went to the next question. I mean, I'm like, I've never seen that.
Well, what I love JJ's intensity. This is just who he is, and he embraces it. He's super competitive. He calls himself a sicko, a basketball sicko, and frankly, I think that's necessary to be a modern NBA head coach with all these guys have to deal with. The games keep on coming, the game planning, and the dealing with the personality. So yes, and when the coach, I think, is with the most stuff that's going on in his mind is right after that whistle blows and you head into halftime, because he's got to think, how am I going to stand up in front of these 15 multimillionaires and tell them something, that they're going to actually listen to? So he's locked in. And I just view myself as sort of a vessel there. I try not to ask questions that are too long or too complicated. I just sort of see where he goes with it. And in that case, yes, you're right. He didn't actually want to give the game plan, although some other games he will. So yeah, you just have to sort of take it as it comes. But I love the intensity. I think the Lakers have benefited from it. And he is a really good coach. But yeah, I think he's going to be a coach for a long time.
Appreciate you, brother. And hope to see you next week when you're in town. All right.
My pleasure. Thanks, PA. Shout out to all the Orono High School friends of mine that are listening. They were very excited. And I can't wait to see everybody soon in Minnesota.
That's Mike Trudell at Lakers Reporter. Truncated final segment next.
Catch the new Hulu original comedy, Mid-Century Modern, from the creators of Will and Grace, executive producer Ryan Murphy, and director James Burrows. When three best friends move in together, Palm Springs will never be the same. Bunny, Jerry, and Arthur are already close friends. But when they decide to live together, it's a new chapter with a new family. And speaking of family, don't forget Bunny's mom, Sybil, who's along for the ride. Whether it's a trip to Fire Island or a local congresswoman with a wild side, these roomies know how to do it with style. They're fun, they're fabulous, and they're turning life's lemons into spiked lemonade. So shake up a batch of cocktails, relax by the pool, and get ready for some serious shade. A new comedy with heart, soul, and sass. Mid-Century Modern stars Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, Nathan Lee Graham, and Linda Lavin. All episodes of Mid-Century Modern are now streaming on Hulu.
I can't wait until tomorrow.
And that's a fact.
'Cause tomorrow might very well be too late.
Assumedly, tomorrow is a Nacho Lieber Thursday. He's Nacho Leader. He's 9 to noons. Ben Lieber tomorrow. Alec Lewis joins tomorrow. Plus, we're going to mix in some Timberwolves and some wild conversation because those are the A topics right now. We have 1, 1A, and 1B, and you can split them how you want per your desires. But 9 to noon, as you covered at FM 100.3 KFAN. I'm Paul Allen. Here comes Big Daddy Khan with the rap on the shout.
That's a great setup, Bob.
Time for 2 more.
Crowd up the X there, gleefully emphatic. O'Donnell go calls in FM, no static. State of hockey, frustrated but loyal, they're fanatics. Chatting with Gorg, elevator, he's automatic. Busy show started with Big Mike. Florio, conspiracy theorist, psych. PFT's finest, content everywhere you look, but of course he'd be the guy to narrate his own book. Speaking of Salt and the Smug, Sinekin's Packers need help and he needs a hug. Corner or some D-line beef, what shall it be? It's the donkey pin in the tail on pick 23. We shall see, got the Wolves hope to sell. Look at the Lakers, local love Mike Trudell. Tomorrow meet Stan Smith and Gary Niebuhr, and weekly bits and boredom with Ben Lieber.
No love for my Golden State Warriors?
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.
Hello, darlings. Pack your suitcase for a new season of the Hulu original reality series Vanderpump Villa.
Let's do this. Ciao, it's Stassi. Of course Lisa brought in her favorite to be resident chaperone of the castle.
Stassi is an icon.
She's my eyes and ears.
I love this.
Get ready for the luxury and drama that awaits us in Italy.
Cheers to all the toxic couples in the castle.
Season 2 of Vanderpump Villa premieres April 24th.
Streaming on Hulu.